Good day, friends, and welcome back. Thank you so much for your patience with me taking the week off last week. There's a lot of stuff going on in my main life, but today, let's talk about what happened to Pandora Lovegood, Luna Lovegood's mother, and what spell do we think she cast that caused her very untimely and tragic death. Part of the reason why I also took last week off was because I got a new kitten, and I will introduce her to you guys at the end of this video. We'll do a little cat tour again. I'm just telling you this in case you hear a lot of meowing in the background. She's actually walking under my feet right now, but she doesn't particularly like being picked up. So because she's still new, I'm trying to respect her wishes and build that trusting relationship right now. And hopefully she will skitter across this couch or jump up and see us. If not, I will pick her up at the end. Also, don't forget, when you comment, add the hearts of your house to get house points, and the first winner will be announced at the end of this month. I'm essentially just telling you this in case you hear a lot of meowing and chitter in the background. She is also a tabby, and so my other cat, who's a tabby, is a very talkative little boy. She is just as talkative, so the two of them have really not shut the hell up since I brought her home. Back to why we're all here, though. We're going to start with her backstory. So back to the actual topic at hand, now that I'm not distracted by cats. Pandora Lovegood is somebody that we know incredibly little about, but everybody always wants to know more, and this was a highly requested video. And so in my attempt to find as much as I can on her, this is what we kind of came up with, but no one knows her actual maiden name or specifically what house she was in. We assume she was Ravenclaw because she's I think we kind of know that her and Xenophilius were together at Hogwarts, so we can assume she was also in Ravenclaw, and because Luna's in Ravenclaw, we can kind of make that assumption as well, but we don't know for sure. And a lot of fanfics actually put her in Slytherin, which I think is really fascinating. A lot of fanfics also give her a variety of different last names. I've seen one make up a name called Evergreen and make up this whole backstory for the Evergreen family tree. A lot of people think she's related to the Malfoys just because of the hair. They're not. They're not related to the Malfoys. They're not related to the Black family tree in any way, which is surprising. And because we don't know anything about the Lovegood family tree, and because we don't know Pandora's maiden name, we actually have no idea their blood status at all. I think one of my favorites is seeing her have the last name Rosier, but she's also in this friend group called the Skittles, which is Evan Rosier, Barty Crouch Jr., it's like that whole group of people, and she's part of like the Skittles, which is their friend group name in a couple different fanfics. Most of what we know about Pandora is from the few lines that we get from Luna where she says her mother was an extraordinary witch. She liked to experiment with spells, and one day one went horribly wrong, and I believe she said she was about 9-10 years old when this happened, and Luna's mother died right in front of her. And same with Xenophilius. We really don't know a lot about his early history or his time at Hogwarts. We just know he was at Hogwarts. He met Pandora at Hogwarts. We know for a fact he was a Ravenclaw, and then pretty much what we know about him is what we know from the actual book series. By the way, side note, the beautiful, I don't even know how to pronounce her name, but the Minalima, whatever, designed and illustrated by Minalima. I was gifted these by somebody from my TikTok page. I didn't buy them myself. I was gifted these, and I absolutely love and adore them. And then right after I got them, they come out with the announcement that they're not doing anymore, when I thought the fourth one was supposed to come out this October. We're not even getting that one, and I haven't really looked into why they're doing it. But I'm also currently putting together a video on ways you can enjoy the Harry Potter fandom without giving money to a big corporation, and find ways to support your love for the magical world of Harry Potter while also staying in line with your own personal values. So if you're interested in that, you can find that on my TikTok page later this week. But I mean, there are just some things you can't avoid, and these books really are amazing, and they're very magical to read, and I'm really disappointed that there won't be more. I know I am not the first to theorize what spell Pandora was fiddling with that day that caused her death. I know I'm not the first to theorize what she could have been and what this could also mean for Luna in her life. So I have combed the internet. I have tried to find as many different theories as I can, looked at many different accounts, seen what other people have said, kind of figured out where they got their information from, and tried to make my own conclusions from that. For what I found, the main consensus is that many people believe that Pandora was a Maledictus, which is the same thing that Nagini is, which, by the way, next week's YouTube video will be the life story of Nagini, and we will talk about Maledictus and that blood curse, but you don't know, a Maledictus is a blood curse where you slowly transform into an animal over time. I don't know if you can see her head in the video right here, but this is her head. And as we know, a Maledictus is something that can only happen to females. It is something that is carried on just through the female bloodline, and it can only be passed down from mother to daughter, and it is genetic. A lot of people also believe that Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat, is a Maledictus, which I could totally see, but there's still not a lot of physical proof about it. I feel like this theory generally stems from the Super Carlin brothers when they were just super excited about Fantastic Beasts and Nagini being a Maledictus and their theory being confirmed. And I think they were just riding that train and they were just trying to put too many things together. And many people believe that her Maledictus form in their, theories that she's a Maledictus is that she would turn into a wolf. And I'm just like, why did we not consider that she could be a werewolf? Why was that just disregarded? Why did we go straight to Maledictus and that she's a wolf? And we did all of these mental gymnastics on how all of these, moon and wolf related things connect to her. They had made this theory about 5 years ago, and from what I could find, many other people agreed and also thought that she turned into a wolf. But the more I read into it and the more things I personally found, I was like, I don't think she's a Maledictus. I think she's a werewolf. And I think her mother was a werewolf. I also think her husband, Rolf Scamander, was a werewolf and they had cute little werewolf babies. So let's get into why I think that. I thought about this, ignore everything that's happening right now. I thought about this while I was editing and I've already taken down my entire set and I'm not putting it back up again just to do this little clip. But what if it wasn't her mother that was a werewolf? What if it was Xenophilius that was a werewolf? There's nothing about Pandora's story that says she has to be the one that had something wrong with her. She could have been making that spell for the daughter that she loved and the husband that she loved, not for a self-serving purpose. There's absolutely nothing, because the biggest argument for the Maledictus is that it was mother to daughter, but how do we know that Pandora was ever the one with whatever disease or blood curse we're discussing right now? It could have been that Xenophilius was a werewolf and he passed it down to his daughter, or God forbid there was an accident where he was in werewolf form and scratched Luna and turned her into a werewolf at a young age. Granted, I feel like that would have been something that severe would have been included in her backstory, so I think it was probably something more secretive, but if the family just kept it super, super, super under wraps, no one would have known about it anyway. All it was that she was an extraordinary witch, not anything else, a witch, but granted they wouldn't have said anything anyway. She was an extraordinary witch and she died experimenting with a spell. What about that says she's a Maledictus? Maybe she was just trying to help her daughter. Maybe neither of them were werewolves and she just had an incident when she was a kid like Lupin did. But I don't think that's likely. I think just because of Lupin's fear that his son was going to have it, that I believe that lycanthropy can be passed down genetically. The Wolfsbane potion was invented around the 1970s by Belvy, who we see his nephew. Yes, it's his nephew, because Slughorn asked him, how's your Uncle Belvy? And he's like, oh, I don't know. Him and my dad don't get along. The only potion worth having is a stiff one at the end of the day. Yeah, his uncle is the one who invented the Wolfsbane potion. And the Wolfsbane potion doesn't stop transformation. It allows the werewolf, the person inside the werewolf, I don't even know if that's the correct way to say it. It allows the person to maintain their humanity when they transform. So if Remus were to take it, he still would have transformed into a werewolf. However, he would have maintained his humanity. So he would remember his friends. He would remember who he was. He would remember not to hurt everyone. But without it, he doesn't have any control. But the thing is, either way, when they transform back, they remember everything despite being out of control. So that was kind of my first question was, well, is Luna transforming into a werewolf and not remembering what's happening because she walks around the castle at night? She sleepwalks. She's very comfortable in the Forbidden Forest and also very comfortable being out there without shoes. And she's an interesting person. She marches to the beat of her own drum, as many would say. One of my favorite facts, though, is that the actress actually she herself made all of the earrings that Luna wore in the movies. And I love the actress paired with the character, I think was just perfect. Also, a side note, while I'm just already distracted, this is why I think I'm just going to have such a hard time with the new HBO series, is because all of the characters for the actual movies were picked so perfectly, in my opinion, that their true personalities resembled and, sorry, cat distracted, resembled and mirrored the characters' personalities, like especially with the trio. I'm going to have such a hard time. I don't know how the hell they're going to cast anyone. But that alone is not enough to make a theory off of anything. And that also could still be linked to her being a Maledictus and going into the Forbidden Forest and transforming into a wolf. However, as we see with Nagini, she can transform at will. So the more she transforms, the sooner she'll get stuck. So I'm not sure how many against her will transformations there actually would be. Okay, she's hopped up. Everybody, this is Naboo. She is named after the planet from Star Wars. She's about a year old and she's super sweet. As we know, a maledictus is hereditary, and lycanthropy, which is what a werewolf is or has, lycanthropy is like their disease of being a werewolf. We're not Lycanthropy is not always passed on genetically, but we know from Lupin's fear that his son was going to have lycanthropy. It can be passed down. Now, it's not always in lycanthropy can be either male or female. It can be any gender and at all. And as we know from the story of Greengrass, the blood curse either kills you or you're doomed to be trapped in the body of a beast with the lifespan of a human for the rest of your life. Now, I believe Harry just celebrated his 44th birthday, meaning Luna would be about the same age. So we know that Nagini was permanently transformed at an early adult age, and Astoria Greengrass died at a very early adult age. So if Luna is about 44, wouldn't she have already been permanently transformed into a wolf by now? I'm now once again looping back to the Wolfsbane potion. I think that because the Wolfsbane potion does not actually stop the transformation, Pandora might have been trying to find a way to actually stop the transformation and further the intelligence of a Wolfsbane potion, utilizing spells as a way, like maybe an anti-transfiguration spell kind of thing, to hopefully help herself and her daughter from these transformations, so that Xenophilius was no longer at risk, because they both cared about their father very much and he did a lot for them. And clearly Xenophilius loved Luna very much throughout all of her upbringing. But the Wolfsbane potion was incredibly hard to brew and very, very, very expensive. So it wasn't very feasible for many people unless you had access to the ingredients. So it would make sense that they would try to find another option to hopefully help more people. Over the years, the author has made it incredibly clear and gone out of her way to make multiple points that a female werewolf is not a maledictus, and there's a big difference between lycanthropy, maledictus, and animagus, and there's no crossover, and they're not the same things. Many people took this as evidence that they were maledictus, but confirmation bias. Everybody has confirmation bias. They took it one way because that was what they were believing. I'm taking it a different way because this is what I believe. Now, there are two pieces of information that I have not seen any other creator discuss when they're making their theories that I think indicate that she would be a werewolf. First is, if you notice while reading the first book of Harry Potter, when they are in the Sorting Hat, and for the life of me, I can't remember what chapter the Sorting Hat chapter is, but I know it starts on page 113, so riddle me that, Batman. Why do I remember that number? I don't know. But when they are going through the names of the Sorting Hat, and they're going through a bunch of different ones, and Susan Bones, Hermione Granger, Draco Malfoy, and then they have a little list where they go, Moon, not Parkinson. Moon was supposed to be Luna. The author actually said in an interview that her name was originally going to be Lily Moon, but then she changed it to Luna Lovegood, and Lily became, Harry Potter's mother and all that stuff, but the character's original name was going to be Lily Moon. Now, that still could be taken in a way that confirms that she's a maledictus that turns into a wolf. Again, why hasn't she turned into a wolf permanently yet? I don't know, but that's neither here nor there. My other one is that while reading on the Wizarding World website, there's an article about things that you may not know about Luna Lovegood. And as I was reading it, there's a small little line where she said that her nickname was Looney, which was not a coincidence. And Looney sounds a lot like Moony, which was Lupin's nickname. And since her almost name was Moon, her nickname would have been Moony.
When it says Luna's name, of course, does mean moon, and in Latin throughout history, the moon has been portrayed as causing people to go insane. So a lot of why people don't like werewolves is because they're out of their mind. When they transform, they're out of their mind. They're not in control, and thus people think that they are insane. They don't even trust them when they're in their human form because of this, form of insanity kind of idea. And I'm just, overlaying that word into that description just because I think it fits really well. And so I just thought of when Luna, the quote at the bottom, "Don't worry, you're just as sane as I am." That to me, if she's a werewolf, has so many deeper layers behind that one sentence, "You're just as sane as I am," because that is to say that werewolves are sane as any other human being, and that Harry is just as sane as any other human being because a werewolf is just as sane as any other human being. Or it's just a hilarious commentary that Luna's a werewolf and incidentally also considered insane at the same time. So it's that connection between werewolves being considered, out of their mind and out of control, and her being considered eccentric and called loony.
And to me, this just ties her to Lupin, which ties her to being a werewolf. Unfortunately, there is not a single point in the book where Lupin and Luna actually directly interact with one another, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means Harry didn't see it because the book's only from his perspective. Now let's talk about Rolf Scamander. He is the grandson of Newt Scamander and Tina Goldstein, which I'm so happy. I love them so much, and we'll talk about them one day soon. But today we're talking about the Lovegoods, Pandora, Luna, and Rolf. His name actually translates into honorable wolf. I don't think I'm capable of pronouncing German. So basically on Harry Potter Wiki, which I'm just reading the etymology off of this, Rolf is a modern variant of the Norse name Hrolfr, Hrolfr, which came from the German name Hrolf, Hrodulf, which is a famous wolf. And Rolf formed into the words Hrodr and ULF, meaning honor and wolf, respectively. His name therefore means honorable wolf. Honorable wolf. Okay, so I just read that straight off because that's where I got that information, and I feel like that was easier than trying to find a way to explain it myself. So Harry Potter Wiki, thank you for that epidemiology. Words are hard. Both Luna and Rolf were masozoologists, and they traveled the world discovering new creatures together, and Luna actually took over the Quibbler from her father and used it to find and give notice to all of these creatures that are new, that they discovered their existence of, many that her father himself theorized existed, but there were a couple that she then had to accept her father totally made up, and that she kind of had to have a reality check at some point. Now, who other than a Scamander could love a werewolf or even a Maledictus wolf? Very few and far between. But what if Rolf was also a werewolf? How? I have no idea. There's not enough known about his early life. I don't think that it would have been passed down through his family. He probably had an incident one day while being a masozoologist and trying to find, a certain creature, and he came across a werewolf and got turned, survived the attack, and then, turned into a werewolf. But his family would have loved him either way. Now, here's where I feel like people did mental gymnastics to try and validate their theory. They had two sons that were named Lorcan and Lysander. They were twins, which I think is adorable that they had twins. So Lorcan and Lysander, they basically take a part of each of their names and use it to essentially get to, wolf connections. They just chop their names up and push them together and use it to connect it to a wolf. But I think the actual meaning behind their names is a bit truer to this story. So Lorcan means little fierce one, and Lysander is liberator. What if They're twins, are meant to change the view of the world, change the view the world has about werewolves. What if they are the liberators of werewolves and they are a little family of werewolves and their honorable wolf and their wonderful mother Luna and their little wolf family, and with the means of the Quibbler, one day turn the tides and change the way people see werewolves and accept them into society. What I also think is really interesting that back in 2015 at like a Comic-Con in Australia, I think the actor for Luna, Ivana Lynch, she mentioned in an interview that Rolf was actually supposed to be introduced in Deathly Hallows and was supposed to be the one that told the trio the story of the tale of the three brothers, but then she cut that out and just made it Xenophilius. Another cutie little fun fact is when Luna and Rolf got married, she wore a dress that was just decorated in spangles and rainbows, and she wore a silver crown of unicorn horns. And that, what's her face? Rita Skeeter. I need to do a video on Rita Skeeter because I love that bitch. Okay, Rita Skeeter basically dubbed her worst dress of the year after that wedding, but I think that that's just so precious and so Luna. We paused this video for a brief cat petting interruption.
All right, guys, say hi to Miss Naboo. She only tolerates being held for so long, but she's a soft, sweet baby girl. She's like a little long hair, fancy, oh, there we go, fancy tabby.
But you tell me what you think. Do you think she was a werewolf or do you think she was a Maledictus? Let me know what you think in the comments. I would love nothing more. We already met Naboo, so I'm not going to pick her up. She's currently playing with her feather toy, and Oliver's bathing himself on the other side of the room and just watching her play with her toy. So yeah, that's what's going on here. I love you all, and thank you for watching, and thank you for having patience with me.